I've helped dozens of people move to Bismarck from out of town or out of state. And these are the top 5 things they want to know before they move here. Oh, and stick around for number 5 because it's something that's so common for me, yet so foreign to the people who are moving here. All right, so I'm a realtor, and some of my favorite clients are the ones who are moving to Bismarck from out of state. Sometimes it's for a job, sometimes they're retiring, sometimes it's just for a fresh start. But whether they're coming from sunny Arizona, the busyness of the East Coast, or the comfort of the South, these tend to be the 5 things my clients want to know before moving to Bismarck. All right, so number 1, no surprise, the weather. Bismarck weather, we get all 4 seasons. So during the summer, you get highs up into the triple digits, hitting over 100. Oftentimes it's going to be in the 80s. Lows tend to be kind of in the 60s throughout the summer, but we will hit triple digits multiple times, typically in August. The winters, they're cold, but probably not as cold as you're thinking. At times we do get below 0. Sometimes the high is only single digits, maybe 5 degrees. But for the most part during the winter, if we're not in the middle of a cold streak, highs are still going to be upper 20s, mid to low 30s. So it's really not as bad as you might be thinking. During the springs tend to be pretty windy. Temperatures don't typically get too warm until usually the middle-ish of April, depending on the spring. But oftentimes, spring in North Dakota, it's gonna be windy. In the fall, by far my favorite season here in North Dakota. The only downside to fall is it's not very long in North Dakota. It feels like it goes from your warm summer highs down into the 40s a little too quick. I would love to see it stay kind of in those 50s, but when we do have fall, it is absolutely gorgeous and by far my favorite season here in Bismarck, North Dakota. All right, and so thing number 2 that people often ask me questions about when they're looking to move to Bismarck is, what's the crime like? Is it safe in Bismarck? And my answer, yes, it's, in my opinion, a very, very safe community. Doing some research, you can kind of get some different opinions or different answers depending on where you go look. But local perspective, I feel very safe here. My family feels very safe here. My opinion is a great place to live. And so the WalletHub study back in October of 2024, they looked at 182 different cities. Bismarck ranked overall 38th. And so they looked at home community safety, they looked at natural disaster safety, they also looked at financial security in each city. And so Bismarck ranked 38 out of 180, or 182, whatever it might have been. So how did they rank in each of those individual categories? Bismarck was 59th in the home and community safety. They ranked 65th safest in the natural disaster, and we came in at 12th safest in terms of financial safety for places to live, cities to live in the United States of America. So really not sure why natural disaster is so low. When I think Bismarck, I don't usually think natural disaster. Yeah, we'll have a tornado every once in a while, but it's pretty rare that a tornado actually causes damage here in North Dakota, like significant damage, especially to houses. Again, I don't feel like the crime is super high here in Bismarck. Coming from a local perspective, raising my family here, we feel very safe. But a big one, 12th, the financial safety part speaks to North Dakota economy, the stability, everything that we have going on here. And so it's actually why we have a bunch of people who are retiring, moving to Bismarck, because of the financial safety and security here that Bismarck and North Dakota as a whole has to offer. All right, and number 3, and this is one that gets me, is they want to know about traffic and commute times. So oftentimes I'll have somebody reach out and say, hey, I'm looking to move to Bismarck. This is where my new job's gonna be, and I wanna be within 30 minutes of there. And I'm like, okay, well, within 30 minutes, that opens up all of Bismarck and most of Mandan. So we have pretty limited traffic here. I mean, if you're comparing it to a quote unquote big city, like we have 0 traffic here. You can go from the northwest corner of Bismarck down to the southeast corner of Bismarck, which southeast is where the airport is. And that's a 25 minute drive. So like I said, within 30 minutes of, if you want to be within 30 minutes of work, opens up the entire Bismarck area and honestly most of Mandan. And so Bismarck and Mandan are separated just by the Missouri River. It really doesn't matter which side you live on, even if you work. The one piece of advice that I would maybe caution you on is if you're working in Bismarck and looking at living in Mandan or vice versa, just know that, especially during the summertime, the bridge that connects Bismarck and Mandan across the Missouri River, often under road construction. For whatever reason, it feels like every single summer that bridge is under construction. And so obviously that can impact your traffic and your commute times. So that'll be one thing to think about if you're looking to live on either side of the river, opposite of where you're looking to be working. But I mean, for the most part, 30 minutes to work, not a problem. Opens up all kinds of options, pretty much every corner of both Bismarck and Mandan. All right, and hey, just real quick before we jump into number 4, I'm a real estate agent. So if you are looking to move to Bismarck Mandan, feel free to reach out, call, text, email, whatever you prefer. Also, feel free, hop into the link down in the description below. I have a free relocation guide in there. It has all kinds of details. I've done the homework for you as far as the different cities, price points, amenities, all of those types of things in the different neighborhoods throughout Bismarck, and really a bunch of different cities across North Dakota too. And so go check that out, completely free for you. Go grab it, take a lot of the stress, and hopefully answer a lot of the questions for you before you do end up moving here. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so you always stay up to date on what's happening here in Bismarck and the kind of the real estate market. All right, and number 4, speaking of the real estate market, housing. Obviously, if you're moving to a new area, you want to know what's the housing situation like. And Bismarck housing market, you could say your average kind of median mid-level home, it's going to be right around $340,000, $350,000, kind of depending on the source that you look at. But I think 350 is a pretty good estimate, and I actually made another video, which I'll try and link up here, that kind of outlines the different price points and what you can expect to get at those different price points. But I mean, we had single family homes that range anywhere from 200,000 all the way upwards of over $1 million, depending on what you're looking for. We've got condos, townhomes, single family homes. We have quite a few different rural neighborhoods. So if you're looking for some privacy and some space, multiple different neighborhoods where you can be still within 30 minutes of work, but have an acre, sometimes even 5 acres, and kind of be able to spread out a little bit and have a really nice home right on the edge of Bismarck, but feel like you're kind of living that rural life out in the country a little bit. The other thing with the Bismarck and really the North Dakota housing market in general is it continues to appreciate. It's a good, strong, stable housing market here, and rarely, if ever, is the housing prices going down in Bismarck or North Dakota. And that speaks again to the economy, to just a bunch of different things, but very strong here. Over the last 20 or 30 years, the average appreciation on a home has increased in value about 4.5% year over year. Yeah, so as far as inventory goes, we are still a little low. Most of our price ranges here, it's January 2025 when I'm shooting this, and most of our price ranges still have less than 3 months of inventory. They consider a balanced market to have 5 to 6 months worth of inventory. So if you are looking to move here, you might not have as many options as you would, looking to move somewhere else, but the prices are great. It's going to be a good long-term investment for you. And if you reach out, let me know what you want, and I can kind of point you in the right direction of maybe the different neighborhoods or those types of things as far as what house and what neighborhood might work for you, for your family, whatever it is, whoever's moving here, get you in a place that you're happy with and comfortable. And again, a good long-term investment that is going to continue to appreciate in value year over year. All right. Number 5, and so this is one that I just take for granted, having lived in North Dakota pretty much my entire life, but has proven to be almost foreign to people who are moving here from out of state. People with families, they often reach out and they're like, hey, I want a house, but it has to have a backyard because I want my kids to be able to go play in the backyard, run around, and me not really have to worry about them as much, which I agree. My yard is fenced, and I completely respect that. But at the same time, you don't really need a fenced backyard in order for your kids to go out and play here in Bismarck. It's a very community-oriented city, and very much the neighborhoods are safe. And so we have kids running around our neighborhood all the time, across backyards, going to play with the neighbors across the street, whatever it might be. So in that sense, Bismarck is still very kind of like an old school feel almost, where, back in the quote unquote good old days, that at least my parents talk about all the time, is like, yeah, our kids just ran around and they played and did this, that, and the other thing, and they'd come home when it was dinner time, whatever. Honestly, for the most part, Bismarck is still kind of like that in a lot of our neighborhoods, and that's how I feel, and that's how my clients who have moved here with families, and even if they end up buying a house that doesn't have a fence, sometimes they actually prefer that after they get here and see what it's like, because they've come back and they've said, man, like, it is exactly how you described it, where my kids they're running around with all of the neighbors, and just not having a fence, it really kind of even opens up and expands the backyards, because now they're connected and they can play football or baseball or whatever it might be. And at the same time, they, as the parent, they still feel very safe, secure that their kids are in a good spot. And there's kind of neighbors watching out for neighbors' kids and doing all that kind of stuff. And so again, my perspective, my client's perspective after they've moved here as well, a fence is great. I do have a fence, but it's definitely not a requirement for your kids to be able to play in the backyard, because again, almost all of our neighborhoods here in Bismarck, like, you're good to go. Let the kids go run out and play with the neighbors, and just live like kids should, in my opinion. I love Bismarck, and I love helping people move to Bismarck. And I've had the pleasure of helping many people from a variety of backgrounds make Bismarck their new home. Families to single folks, recent grads finding their first job, to retirees making their last move. I love this town, and I love this state. So if you're looking to make a move to a higher quality of life, feel free to reach out to me today. I'd love to chat and help you make your move to Bismarck, North Dakota as smooth as possible.